Okay, welcome to another episode of On the Wrist from Off the Cuff. Today I have a really cool review for you from the brand BOLDR Supply Company. It's a bit of a special episode where I'll be pointing out actually some of my multiple units of this particular watch. It's the BOLDR Venture. A little bit about the brand. They're based out of Singapore. They manufacture watches and gear that's super tough, stylish, yet functional, and always ready for adventure. In terms of the type of watch, of course, I consider these to fall within that category of the classic field watch. Some key common characteristics and design language that you can identify when you're looking for something within this space, of course, is going to be one, a modest kind of vintage style sizing, as well as Arabic numerals, 12 and 24-hour scales, and normally either on a black or cream dial, although a blue or green dial also do pretty well within that same genre. In terms of this particular watch, this is the BOLDR Venture, and it's really a great example of the modern field watch that I think still perfectly conveys that classic field watch formula while adding something new to the recipe without distracting from the core theme. These are another thing that's really great about these within that theme is that they're really affordable. They're only $2.99 direct from BOLDR, and I think they have dealers too you can buy them from. But they're really great, and that's not just from me speaking as somebody who reviews watches on YouTube, but also as a veteran within the United States Marine Corps. I think these really offer a lot of value in terms of being a very classic, usable, functional field watch. And I remember a couple of episodes ago, somebody had kind of asked, if I was into watches back when, or kind of if I knew what I knew now, what would be the type of watch that I would have worn while I was serving active duty. So I think this definitely, this line makes a great case for itself. As you can see, I have a little collection going of these particular ones. So looking forward to sharing my thoughts with you guys. So let's go ahead, zoom the camera out, get these pieces in hand, and take a closer look. Okay, guys, now as you can see, they're all on various straps, and I think that's kind of something that's important to consider when you are going to be thinking about picking up a field watch. Is you're going to want that versatility, because depending on what you're doing, a different strap could make more sense, whether it be for the color or the material or just for the mission itself. So one thing I did want to mention when I said gear, a really cool thing about BOLDR is that they actually are even venturing into the EDC and the knife world. And here's an example. This is their Wildman 1. Definitely check the channel history if you're looking for more information on this really cool classic little slip joint. You see, but it's been modernized with a modern steel here, super steel M390, titanium bolsters, and of course some really nice micarta in terms of the scale. So very cool, and something that I think does have a nice bit of crossover within the space as well. Now, getting into these pieces, this is probably, I believe this is the first one that I picked up way back when it comes to the Venture. And yeah, I'm a big sucker for blue dials. I have it on an Erica's Originals Marine National strap. Very nice, nicely signed. This is one of the more I haven't kept up in terms of the different finishing options, but this was more of like a tumbled patinaed finish, which actually goes well with this bead blasted finish on the BOLDR Venture. Getting into some of the details, this is a classic 38 millimeter diameter, 14 millimeters thick, which might seem thick, but honestly, the lines on the case and everything, it really breaks up that thickness really, really well and segments it into kind of the mid case, of course the case back, and then that front bezel. It's only 44 millimeters lug to lug, so very, very compact. All titanium matte blasted finish. You do get a flat sapphire with inner AR coating, and then the crown is at 4 o'clock and screw down, which does give you 200 meters of water resistance, which is fantastic. And then although you can't see it, this actually has a Seiko NH35A movement inside of it, which is going to give you 41 hours of power reserve, 3 hertz beat rates, and it's pretty much, does what you need it to do. Also, you're getting 20 millimeter lug width, Also drilled lugs, so it makes it easy to switch out to different straps. As you can see, different straps here. We have it on the Halveston General Service strap, and this thing's fantastic. Honestly, this colorway just perfectly matches something that our modern gear in the Marine Corps we would actually wear, because we get deployed to places like the desert, so something like this really would have been perfect back then. And then also you do have the option for a full titanium bracelet, which is really, really cool, and I can absolutely appreciate as somebody that's a big bracelet person. So this is almost like a way to kind of dress up the watch. So let's say you're in garrison or something like that, and you just want to have something that's going to be very mellow, very monotone, and isn't really going to stand out, and be totally fine to kind of wear with uniform, even in a service uniform versus your utilities. So this is just a really cool piece. It's relatively small, but it packs a lot of punch. 200 meters of water resistance, screw down crown. It's out of the way, really short lug to lug, which means that when we are, if you were to wear this, let's say, we'll demo that here. It doesn't take up a lot of space, and that's something that you're going to want in terms of a tactical timepiece or a field watch, right? Because you're going to, of course, not want it to get in the way of your other gear. This isn't going to snag. It has a smaller silhouette, less overhang, which means it's less likely to snag on anything, and it looks great, right? And you can have something like this, colorful pops of orange, I think goes really well with the Marine National strap from America's Originals. This is, again, probably be something that would be more worn in garrison versus on deployment in terms of the colorway. A blue dial is very nice, very legible. So maybe if you want some personality, but I would say stick to probably the of course the classics if you're going to be searching for uniformity. And the nice thing is these will stand out, but in a way that doesn't shout. So that's one thing. Of course, this will absolutely go with a uniform and be totally fine. Or if you're just even if you're not in the military, these will look really, really nice in terms of just being something that you can wear casually, right? And you can see on my 7.5-inch wrist, it's actually rather petite in sizing, and that's something that's true again for field watches. Personally, for an everyday watch, I'd probably like this to be just a bit larger. I think a 40 or a 41 with this same profile, right, shortened to where it's going to wear a little bit smaller, would be really fantastic. But can't really complain because BOLDR also puts out some greater larger models as well. So this is something that for those of you with smaller wrists or medium to large size wrists, I think wears really, really fantastic. And you do have a couple different options thanks to that 20mm lug width, as well as, of course, having drilled lugs or pierced lugs, as some may call them, just because then it just makes it easier to swap out straps. And then the nice thing is with the 20mm lug width, now it's easier to, of course, have straps that fit, that can feel a little bit universal. And one thing I really like about these Halveston straps, of course, is that they do have a sliding keeper here, so I can just set that to where it's going to catch that extra tongue and tail, and this thing looks fantastic. Of course, it's going to look a little bit larger while I have it up close to the camera. So if I drop my wrist down and just tighten up the shot there, you can see this thing works really great. And of course, Halveston, in terms of being purveyors of military themed goods, they really hit the mark with this strap. And it flows really beautifully with this watch that, of course, is also meant to evoke that kind of military theme in terms of being a truly useful field watch. But hey, the nice thing is if you need to swap it out because you're going to be going into a wooded area, then you can swap it out for a green one or a black one, right? So there are some other options. Or hey, you want to have the comfort or the security of that folding locking mechanism in steel, or the extra security of knowing that if your spring bar fails, that this is a closed loop system and it won't fall off your wrist. Basically the other spring bar would have to fail. You also get that type of double security. So there's a lot to definitely like with these pieces, and I think it's really nice. Everything is very simple. Of course, these are going to be printed dials, really great loom, but different types of loom in terms of the way that it's applied, especially when you look at this white dial model. So with all that said, let's actually lay all these out. We'll do some loom shots, the light transition, and closing thought. Okay, we'll go ahead and hit the lights here. As you can see, slightly different in terms of the loom there with that white dial variation, but the loom is applied really well, and it is shining very brightly, as you guys can all notice. But one thing I always like to work in, of course, is some low light transition, and you can see now with just a little bit of light, that white dial is very legible, even without having the additional loom that the black dial or blue dial models have. And of course, definitely check their site for current availability, because I don't believe the blue dial is even an option anymore. So, but you can see, one thing I always like to work in, of course, is that transitional lighting, because you're not always going to be out in the middle of a field enjoying direct sunlight. A lot of times, you know, you'll be coming in and out of buildings, walking underneath overhangs, maybe hanging out underneath the shade of a tree, or just spending some time in your favorite automobile. So it's nice to see what these colors, textures, and finishes render like in less than optimal lighting. And as you can see, that matte blasted finish does the job. It hides that wear and tear really well. And of course, since these are titanium, you know, you are going to be open to some types of, you know, surface scuffs and whatnot. But you can see after years of wearing, these definitely hold up well. I haven't abused them or anything. And I do like to keep my watches relatively pristine, but these definitely are up to the task, and they are absolutely watches that take on a fantastic patina once you really get these worn down, which I've seen these watches pop up on my feed tons of times. Within the EDC community, there's actually quite a few people that love themselves a good titanium watch and like to get all of that wear to kind of match their everyday utility tools, whether it be a pocket knife or a pry bar or a, you know, little titanium flashlight, and they all kind of have equal wear, and it actually is aesthetically very pleasing to see. But you can see again that these are very legible, whether you're going to be looking at the loom or, you know, trying to take a look at some of the ambient lighting within the room. All right, guys, so with the lights back on, closing thoughts on the wrist, these really hit that classic mid-sized feel. You know, they're super lightweight, of course, being titanium, but they are mechanical, so they do have a little bit of heft, so that they do have, of course, that premium feel as well. In terms of model variants, carbon black, sandstorm, and then navy blue. Sandstorm, of course, is the white dial. Then there's also other, you know, options, so definitely check their site and the links for availability and different options from that perspective. In terms of comparable models, you know, the Hamilton khaki range, specifically the 38mm mechanical models, as well as the Marathon general purpose mechanical at around 34mm with a resin case. I say both options would typically come in higher in terms of cost, and they don't necessarily offer you anything higher in terms of spec or design, because they have a similar design, right? The dials are going to look similar, although the cases will be quite different. So I also did do a, you know, titanium field watches under $1,000 and under the radar, kind of great for EDC type video. So check that video out if you haven't watched it yet, and you can consider some other comparables. But for me, bottom line here, the Venture line from BOLDR really represent an amazing combination of both value and capability, delivering an honest field watch that is both rugged and affordable enough to actually be comfortably used for genuine field duty. So that's something that I think it can be missing at times, because sometimes you're paying a lot of money for a watch that essentially is meant to be tough, but then you're going to kind of not treat it in a way that's necessarily tough, because you want to keep it pristine, because it costs a pretty penny, right? So I think that's another nice thing about these, and keeps them really true to form and keeping the cost down, making them affordable, but still offering all the toughness that you would expect, you know, in really an everyday carry tool. So with that said, let me know what you guys think in the comments below. If you like the video, please do it like, and if you haven't already, please subscribe for more content just like this. Thanks, guys.